NASCAR disqualifies Justin Haley. Denny Hamlin suggests he may finish his career with 2311, and the latest edition of my weekly power rankings may surprise you. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy Monday. If you missed it, last night gave my thoughts on Circuit of the Americas. Big Bill Byron gets the win. Christopher Bell gets himself into some trouble. Ford suspiciously absent. You may also notice some Fords absent from my weekly power ranking segment. We'll get there in just a moment. Don't want to give away too many hints too early. You can click right up here, by the way, if you missed my post-race recap. You want to watch the full video, should be a little link right here. Sometimes the link doesn't show up when I point, and I don't know, that must be a YouTube thing, but it's embarrassing whenever I point and there's nothing there. Before we move on from COTA, there's one more thing I need to add to last night's video. Just after I uploaded, NASCAR announced they had disqualified Justin Haley. In that video, I commended Justin Haley. Second week in a row where he showed top 15 speed in a Rick Ware Racing Ford, finished 17th, but now he will be credited with a last place finish after NASCAR officials found that the number 51 car did not meet minimum weights in post-race inspection. Brutal development for this young race team, and especially this young driver. Justin Haley has done almost everything right the past 2 weeks. Ran well at Bristol, ran well at COTA, got the attention of NASCAR Hall of Famer Mark Martin, who tweeted yesterday afternoon, "At Justin Haley runs really good in that Rick Ware Racing car." But unfortunately, due to the disqualification, this drops Haley from 26th to 31st in the regular season standings. Very unfortunate, and I already know what the narrative is going to be. I know what fans are going to be asking. Did Justin Haley make the right move going from Colleague to Rick Ware Racing? I don't think that's the correct question to answer. First, we got to add some context to it. Did Justin Haley really have a place with Colleague last season? Unclear. Colleague had a number of deals in limbo. They were chasing sponsorship. Their Cup Series team is in a weird place today. I mean, today they just announced Ty Dillon is going to make 5 Cup Series starts for them. Like, what are they doing? So at the time when Haley chose to go to Rick Ware, I actually commended him for controlling his own destiny, taking silly season into his own hands. Long term, I still think the move to Rick Ware Racing will be a positive one. That's a fairly young team that's clearly improving, albeit slightly. And they've never been competitive in the past. So when Justin Haley goes out and runs top 15 back-to-back weeks, everyone notices and everyone applauds him. You know, Justin Haley's getting a lot of the credit for their improved performance so far this year. So that's a good look for Justin Haley. Again, long-term, I think this was a good decision by him considering what he had available. But in the short term, there will continue to be growing pains. They're going to completely miss the setup some weeks. Other weeks, they're going to fail pre-race inspection, lose their qualifying spot, or in rare cases like this one, they'll fail post-race inspection and get credited with a last place finish and virtually no points. All Justin Haley needs to do is control what he can control. And eventually, more than likely, the results will begin to improve. Trey Ryan on Twitter found an amazing stat. Justin Haley, in back-to-back weeks, has apparently recorded Rick Ware Racing's best ever average running position. That is an incredible stat and a very encouraging sign that once this team puts things together, once they build around a clearly talented young race car driver, better things will come. You know, Colleague Racing, their Cup Series program, I don't know what they're trying to be. Rick Ware, you know, they're starting from basically the very bottom, but there's only one way to go but up. I do like the trajectory they're on. Again, they're on Roush Fenway Keselowski's campus. They have a relationship with them. Remember, Brad Keselowski helped recruit Justin Haley to Rick Ware Racing. I like the direction this team is headed, but clearly they still have a long way to go. Moving on, and we will get back to COTA in a few moments because I got to give y'all my weekly Out of the Groove power rankings. But before we can get to that, Sports Business Journal dropped a very interesting story today all about 2311 Racing. Documents their rise to prominence, their new airspeed race shop, their future goals and aspirations. And it also included some very interesting numbers and stats regarding 2311's fan base and marketing strategy. So I'll link the full article down below if you want to check the full thing out, which I encourage you to do so. But I want to focus on a couple of very interesting quotes from team co-owner Denny Hamlin. Adam Stern writes that Denny Hamlin told him that he would like to drive for 2311 Racing one day. though it's unclear if that would happen after his full-time driving career with JGR is over. According to Stern, Denny Hamlin would consider racing full-time for his own 23XI racing team if the cars were as competitive as what Joe Gibbs Racing provides. And apparently Denny Hamlin told Adam Stern, quote, "I'm slowly but surely starting to believe that 23XI is an equal to the position I'm in right now." Denny Hamlin drives the number 11 Toyota Camry for Joe Gibbs Racing. He has his entire NASCAR Cup Series career. He's now 43 years old, and he just signed last fall a multi-year contract extension to stay with JGR. Now, that could literally mean anything, as we've seen with other drivers and contract situations in recent years, but more than likely, the earliest we could expect Hamlin to move to his own 23XI racing team full-time would be his age 45 season, which, at that point, by modern standards, he would be very close to retirement. I mean, Kevin Harvick is sort of the outlier, and he raced until, 47? Matt Kenseth was 45, his final year with Joe Gibbs Racing. How old was Dale Jr. when he retired from Hendrick? At least full-time. Obviously, he still does Xfinity stuff. I think he was 43. Eric Almirola just retired from full-time competition at 39. Hey, as long as Denny Hamlin is motivated, I'm sure he'll be competitive for 3, 4, 5 more years. But his age is noteworthy. What's also noteworthy is Denny Hamlin's longtime loyalty to Joe Gibbs and vice versa. I would genuinely be surprised if Denny Hamlin did not finish his full-time racing career with Joe Gibbs Racing. Then, if he wants to go race part-time for 23XI, go for it. That would not surprise me at all. He's built this thing from the ground up. Go have some fun. But never say never. Perhaps he could go to 23XI earlier than expected, full-time even. Hey, Joe Gibbs Racing has changed quite a bit in recent years. Much of that, unfortunately, due to tragedy. Now there's a new ownership group involved with the team. They own a minority stake. Veteran drivers like Kyle Busch have left. Martin Truex Jr., you never know. Any year could be his last. Ask Tony Stewart how it felt to win a championship driving for his own Stewart-Haas racing team. Remember, Tony Stewart left Joe Gibbs Racing to start his own venture to drive for his own team in 2009. He obviously won a championship just a couple years later. Maybe that's in the back of Denny Hamlin's mind. Look, right here, right now, I think Joe Gibbs Racing gives Denny Hamlin the best shot at winning a championship. 23XI Racing isn't crazy far off or anything, but they don't have the proven, consistent track record JGR does. And shoot, look at the standings 6 races into this season. Truex is first, Ty Gibbs is second, Hamlin's fourth, Christopher Bell even is seventh. All 4 JGR drivers are ahead of both 23XI drivers in the standings. I know it's early, but that's significant. If Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace are able to close that gap later this year or next year, then maybe Denny Hamlin will consider leaving Joe Gibbs Racing before his full-time career is over. Who's to say? Now, if Hamlin goes to 23XI, they would likely need a third charter. Is 23XI in the market for a new charter? Based on reports, I think the short answer is yes, but it doesn't sound like they're close to pulling the trigger on anything. Hamlin told Adam Stern here in Sports Business Journal, quote, "Everything is just kind of hanging on waiting to see what Jim France decides to do. Does he choose to invest in us or not? And if not, then we'll just continue to cut like we've been doing. Content will suffer. Getting people to work in NASCAR will be harder and harder, and this sport will stay with its feet stuck in the mud." Ooh, strong words there from Denny Hamlin aimed at NASCAR leadership. What do you think? Do you think it's likely Denny Hamlin leaves JGR for 23XI to chase a championship sometime in the next couple seasons? Or do you see him finishing his career just how it started with Joe Gibbs Racing and the number 11 team? Leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking at this point. Now it's time for one of my favorite new weekly segments. After each race, I come in here Monday afternoon and rank the top 10 fastest overall drivers and teams in the NASCAR Cup Series at this moment. It's time for the latest edition of my Out of the Groove Power Rankings. Couple of honorable mentions real quick. Chase Elliott still looking for that first top 5 finish on the season, but he is top 10 in points and seemed to have top 5 speed at COTA before the course cutting mistake. Also Brad Keselowski, another terrible day in Austin, Texas for that 6 team, but that team was on a good roll. I expect them to get back on track at Richmond this weekend. But now let's get into my actual top 10 this week. I gotta show some love to Alex Bowman, number 10, back-to-back 4th place finishes. Now he's only led 6 laps all season, but his 3 top 5 finishes are actually more than any of his Hendrick Motorsports teammates. It was great to see Jeff Gordon gassing him up after the race on pit road. We head to Richmond this weekend where Alex Bowman is a previous winner. Hopefully this positive momentum continues for the 48 team. Bowman at 10. At number 9 goes Ross Chastain. 4 top 10 finishes the past 5 weeks. Led 10 laps at COTA and made that number 1 Chevy wide. You heard it on the Fox broadcast. There's no one harder to pass in the NASCAR Cup Series today than Ross Chastain. Another strong effort from the 1 team. They move up 1 spot this week to position number 9. At number 8, this one is tough, but I'm going with Tyler Reddick. Solid top 5 effort at COTA yesterday. Wasn't quite able to defend his winning 2023 run. I love seeing the consistency from Reddick. He's been a great road racer now for a few years. Between RCR 2311, does not matter, he will contend. But now early this year, he's shown top 5 speed at a super speedway. Remember, won his dual race at Daytona. He showed top 5 speed at a 1.5 miles. Remember, he was 2nd at Las Vegas. I think he had top 5 speed at Phoenix. Remember, he finished 10th but led 68 laps. He looks really good all around to start this season. But Ty Gibbs looks just a little bit better. That's why I had to flip these two this week. Ty Gibbs comes in 7th. Ty Gibbs is 2nd in points. His worst finish this year is 17th. He's on a 5-race top 10 streak. I would not be surprised if Ty Gibbs gets his first career win later this spring, but if not, circle Sonoma or Chicago this summer. Ty Gibbs has 3 straight top 5 finishes at road courses going back to the end of last season. Really like what I'm seeing from the young sophomore driver, Ty Gibbs at 7. At number 6, I'll go with another Toyota driver, Christopher Bell. 2nd, 10th, and 1st the last 3 weeks. Really, all of Joe Gibbs Racing looks fantastic right now. Christopher Bell may look young, but he's not. This is his 5th full-time year in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's already been to 2 straight championship 4s. Adam Stevens is a 2-time championship crew chief on the pit box. We should expect this kind of performance from Christopher Bell at this point. Now, the run-ins this weekend with Kyle Larson and especially Kyle Busch have me a little concerned. I mean, Kyle Busch said to Bell's face that he's going to wreck him in the future. Now, I highly doubt Kyle Busch would just blatantly take Christopher Bell out. For one, NASCAR would probably frown at that, and also that's not who Kyle Busch is at this stage of his career. But now that threat is going to linger in the back of Christopher Bell's mind. I hope it doesn't impact his on-track focus and performance here in the coming weeks. For now, Bell still sits at number 6. At number 5, I'll take Kyle Larson. Now, Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott have looked pretty good the past couple weeks, but I still think William Byron and Kyle Larson are the most dependable Hendrick drivers. Larson got tagged by Bell yesterday. That whole incident may have prevented a top 5 or at least a top 10 run. Larson is the defending spring Richmond winner, so look for him to get back on track this weekend, Easter Sunday. At number 4, he's drifting back slowly but surely. I'm sorry, Ryan Blaney. After 3 straight top 5 finishes, the last 2 weeks, Blaney's looked like a 15th place car. Bristol was weird, I'll give you that. Blaney was probably the fastest Penske car in that race, but even he faded a bit towards the end. And I am going to give him some credit at Circuit of the Americas. Even though he finished outside the top 10, he rebounded after a spin, a bad qualifying effort. I think he started like 28th. I'm concerned with Ford overall right now. There's a reason Blaney is the only Ford in my top 10 this week. But that's because Blaney is probably the Ford driver I'm least concerned about at this point in the season. I've got him at number 4. At number 3, Denny Hamlin. He won at Bristol a week ago, kind of played right into his hands, long run, tire conservation. COTA was a completely different type of race. Hamlin struggled a little bit. He still played the strategy to win stage 2, get a free playoff point. So still a decent day overall, but really outside of Bristol, Denny Hamlin is not finishing where he runs to start this year. year. Finished 8th at Las Vegas after running top 5 most of the day, leading 16 laps. Finished 11th at Phoenix after spinning out, racing for the lead. 14th at COTA, they played pit strategy, okay, decent day, but most of his teammates were up in the top 5 contending for the win. I'm not too worried about Denny Hamlin. We do head to Richmond this weekend. He's a 4-time winner there. I expect the Virginia native to be strong on Sunday. Top 2, moving on up week after week, Martin Truex Jr. Still looking for that first win, but 4 straight top 10 finishes. He hasn't finished worse than 15th all year long. He leads the regular season standings, cool, calm, quiet, and consistent. Martin Truex Jr. was put in a huge hole at Circuit of the Americas. Lap 1, he gets door slammed, damage on the right side, I believe. Had to pit under green on lap 1, lost all that track position, and only had 2 cautions all day to try and make it up. But he did, for the most part, got back to 10th. A top 10 finish after those early issues. Even led a couple laps trying to play the strategy. This team proved this weekend that they can persevere when faced with adversity, and I think that's something that kind of hurt them at the end of last season. So, like what I'm seeing from the 19 team, they're at number 2, which means back in the number 1 spot after a few weeks away is William Byron. I've had William Byron in my top 5 all season long. Now he's a 2-time winner, led more than half the laps at COTA, and Fox dropped an interesting stat during the broadcast. William Byron now is the winningest driver in the next-gen era. 10 wins in just over 2 seasons, 2 wins early this year. He looks on pace for another 5, 6, maybe even 7 win 2024. There you go. There's my top 10. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my rankings. The road course certainly shuffled things up quite a bit. Thanks for tuning in, folks. That is going to do it for this episode, y'all. I really appreciate you watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. It's fast, it's free, it's easy. And a huge thank you, as always, to my very generous Patreon supporters. I hope you all have a wonderful start to your week. I will catch you again very, very soon. Thanks for watching, folks.